For 6 months, someone watched Jennifer Walsh through her bedroom window every night before breaking into her apartment and torturing her to death. We found hundreds of photographs hidden in the killer's surveillance post across the street. Images of Jennifer sleeping, showering, living her normal life while a predator documented her every move. They call me detective, and what I'm about to tell you is the story of the case that broke me. The Night Stalker of Riverside Heights. A serial killer I spent 8 months hunting and never caught. The mask I wear isn't just protection anymore, it's shame. Jennifer Walsh, 28, was found dead in her apartment on Elm Street on a cold Tuesday morning in March. Her neighbor called police when Jennifer failed to pick up her mail for 3 days. The kind of small detail that saves lives and solves murders. Except this time, it was too late. Jennifer had been tortured before she died. The medical examiner counted 47 separate injuries, cuts, burns, ligature marks that suggested prolonged suffering. The killer had spent hours with her, taking his time, savoring her terror. There was no sexual assault, no robbery, just methodical, calculated cruelty. The apartment showed signs of careful planning. The killer had disabled the security system using Jennifer's own access code, suggesting surveillance that went back weeks or months. Here's something that will disturb you about serial killers. They don't choose random victims. Every target is selected through careful observation, psychological profiling, and opportunity assessment. Jennifer Walsh wasn't unlucky. She was chosen. Our investigation revealed Jennifer's routine had been completely predictable. She worked 9 to 5 at an insurance company, hit the gym every Tuesday and Thursday, grocery shopped on Sundays. She lived alone, had few close friends, and rarely deviated from her schedule. To a predator, she was perfect. The killer had been studying her for months. We found evidence of surveillance equipment in the apartment building across the street, a vacant unit that had been rented with cash 6 months earlier using a fake identity. What we found in that surveillance post still gives me nightmares. Professional photography equipment focused on Jennifer's bedroom window. Hundreds of photographs documenting her daily routine, sleep patterns, when she was home alone. Detailed notes about her habits, work schedule, social interactions. But the most chilling discovery was a journal written in meticulous handwriting. The killer had documented his growing obsession with Jennifer, describing her as perfect for the work, and planning exactly how he would break her psychologically before killing her. This wasn't random violence. It was a methodical psychological experiment. The rental agreement for the surveillance post was signed by someone calling himself David Miller, but that identity didn't exist. Cash payments, fake identification, no digital footprint. Our killer understood operational security better than most law enforcement. 3 weeks after Jennifer's murder, we found victim number 2, Maria Santos, 31, discovered in her townhouse on the other side of Riverside Heights. The killer had escalated. Where Jennifer suffered for hours, Maria had endured days of torture before death finally released her. The crime scene showed the same methodical planning. Security system disabled using Maria's access code. Evidence of prolonged surveillance. No sexual assault or robbery. But this time, the killer had left something behind. A Polaroid photograph of Jennifer Walsh, placed deliberately on Maria's nightstand like a calling card. Our killer was communicating with us, establishing his signature, claiming credit for both murders. He wanted us to know that Jennifer wasn't a one-time occurrence. She was the beginning of something much worse. Here's how serial killer investigations work. You look for patterns in victim selection, crime scene behavior, and geographical distribution. Jennifer and Maria shared crucial similarities. Both lived alone, both worked predictable schedules, both lived in ground floor apartments with easily observable windows. We established a task force and began reviewing similar unsolved cases from neighboring jurisdictions. What we found was terrifying. At least 6 other women matching our victim profile had disappeared over the past 2 years. Their bodies were never found, but surveillance equipment had been discovered near their homes after they vanished. Our night stalker had been perfecting his technique for years, learning from each victim, improving his methods, escalating his violence. Want to know what every detective fears most? When the killer's timeline accelerates. 2 weeks after Maria Santos, we found Rebecca Chen, 26, in her studio apartment downtown. The escalation was horrifying. Rebecca had been kept alive for nearly a week before the killer finally ended her suffering. This time, our killer left more than a photograph. Pinned to Rebecca's bathroom mirror was a handwritten note.
Detective, you're not looking in the right places. I've been watching you watching me. You're always 3 steps behind. DM.
DM, David Miller, the fake identity used to rent the surveillance posts. Our killer knew we'd discovered his watching posts and was taunting us with our inability to catch him. Worse, he was watching our investigation, possibly infiltrating our crime scenes. We threw everything at this case: federal profilers, digital forensic specialists, surveillance teams monitoring potential targets. The FBI classified our night stalker as an organized, highly intelligent serial killer with law enforcement or military training. His operational security was too sophisticated for an amateur. But every lead evaporated like morning mist. The surveillance equipment was purchased with untraceable cash. The rental agreements were signed with expertly forged documents. Even the Polaroid photographs yielded no fingerprints, no DNA, no trace evidence that could identify our killer. We were hunting a ghost who left bodies in his wake and seemed to anticipate our every investigative move. The psychological terror of knowing someone could be watching you right now is unimaginable. But first, are you paying attention to the escalation pattern here? Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you do if you discovered surveillance equipment pointed at your home? How would you protect yourself from a predator this methodical? Your survival instincts might be better than you think. Here's what happens when serial killers become overconfident. They make mistakes. Our 4th victim, Ashley Rodriguez, 29, fought back harder than the killer expected. We arrived at her apartment to find signs of a struggle. Broken furniture, blood spatter indicating Ashley had wounded her attacker. Ashley didn't survive, but her resistance gave us our first real evidence. Blood drops leading from her apartment to the parking garage, where we found DNA evidence on a car door handle. Finally, we had a genetic profile of our night stalker, but the DNA didn't match any criminal databases. Our killer had no prior arrests, no military service record, no legitimate reason for his genetic information to be in any system. We were still hunting someone who existed entirely in the shadows. 3 days after Ashley's murder, I discovered that I'd become part of the killer's game. Surveillance equipment was found positioned to watch my apartment, my car, my daily routines. The night stalker had been studying me just as methodically as he'd studied his victims. A package arrived at my home with no return address. Inside were photographs of me leaving for work, entering the police station, even sitting in my car reviewing case files. A note attached read, "Detective, you're becoming quite interesting. I wonder if you'd fight as hard as Ashley did. DM. Our killer was escalating beyond victim murder to law enforcement intimidation. He wasn't just hunting women anymore. He was hunting the people hunting him. On October 15th, we came within minutes of catching him. Surveillance teams monitoring potential victim Sarah Kim's apartment complex spotted suspicious activity. A figure in dark clothing accessing the building's roof at 2:30 a.m. We responded immediately with tactical units. The rooftop was abandoned when we arrived, but we found fresh surveillance equipment still warm from recent use. Photographs were scattered across the roof, images of Sarah sleeping, unaware that death was watching her from above. Our killer had fled so recently that we could smell his cigarette smoke lingering in the night air. Sarah Kim was relocated to protective custody that night. We'd saved one victim, but our night stalker had vanished again, leaving behind only evidence of how close he'd come to claiming another life. Here's what makes some serial killers impossible to catch. They adapt faster than investigations can evolve. After the Sarah Kim incident, our night stalker changed his entire operational pattern. No more surveillance posts, no more predictable victim selection, no more extended stalking periods. Instead, he began leaving taunting messages at crime scenes throughout the city. Not murder scenes, but break-ins, vandalism, minor crimes that seemed unrelated until we noticed the signature. DM was here, spray painted in locations that formed a pattern across the city, a map only he understood. The messages were psychological warfare designed to let us know he was still active while making it impossible to predict his next move. He'd evolved from serial killer to phantom, present everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. 8 months after Rebecca Chen's murder, I received a final communication from the Night Stalker. Not a threatening letter or surveillance photographs, but something far more disturbing. A detailed critique of our investigation, pointing out every mistake we'd made, every clue we'd missed, every opportunity we'd wasted. The letter demonstrated intimate knowledge of our investigative techniques, our evidence processing, even confidential details that shouldn't have been accessible to civilians. Our killer hadn't just been watching his victims, he'd been infiltrating our investigation, possibly from the beginning. The final paragraph chilled me to my core.
Detective, you've been an entertaining opponent, but this game has become boring. I'm moving to more challenging territory. The women of Riverside Heights can sleep peacefully now. My work here is complete. Don't bother looking for me. I've already forgotten you exist. DM.
This case destroyed something fundamental about my faith in justice and investigative procedure. For 8 months, I lived and breathed the Night Stalker case, analyzing every piece of evidence, interviewing every potential witness, following every possible lead into dead ends. The mask I wear now hides more than my identity. It conceals the knowledge that I failed the women who died while I was always 3 steps behind their killer. Jennifer, Maria, Rebecca, and Ashley deserved a detective smart enough to catch their murderer. Instead, they got me. The Night Stalker's final letter sits in my desk drawer, a reminder of professional failure and the limits of human justice against inhuman evil. David Miller is still out there somewhere, probably reading police reports about his current work, laughing at investigators who think they understand what they're hunting. The Night Stalker taught me that some evil is simply too intelligent to be caught by conventional means. If you're a woman living alone, if you keep predictable routines, if you've ever felt like someone was watching you, trust that instinct, because somewhere in the shadows, predators like David Miller are always hunting for their next perfect victim. The investigation into the Night Stalker remains officially open, but unofficially, it's a cold case that will never be solved. Some killers are caught by evidence and procedure. Others, like David Miller, simply disappear into the darkness they came from. The next case on my desk won't be as sophisticated or psychologically complex, but it will be solvable. And that's what I need right now. A reminder that sometimes justice actually wins. What did you think of this case? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more true crime stories like this, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.